Hello and welcome to Viewzone News. I'm Jawad Tehami. Today, the people and the government in Pakistan as well as in Azad, Jammu and Kashmir observed the Kashmir Solidarity Day in order to express that unwavering support to the people who are oppressed by Indian regime and Indian occupation troops in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. A number of events happened today in commemoration of this particular day to express that solidarity with the Kashmiri people and to draw the world attention towards their right to self-determination according to the relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions. This day basically marks that very love and affection among the people of Pakistan towards their Kashmiri brethren under Indian illegal occupation, as well as to draw the international community's attention, especially the United Nations, to fulfill its obligation to hold a free, fair and impartial plebiscite in the illegally occupied territory so that the people of Kashmir can determine their future as per their aspirations, and that has been promised in a number of United Nations Security Council resolutions. Now, regarding this particular day, there have been statements by both the President, Dr. Arif Alvi, as well as caretaker Prime Minister, Mr. Anwarul Haq Kakar. Now, President says, let me quote, "Today, the IIOJK is one of the most militarized zones in the world. Kashmiris are living in an environment of fear and intimidation." He went on to say Indian occupation forces were engaged in indiscriminate use of force against civilians, and political activists and human rights defenders are facing arbitrary detentions and confiscation of their properties. The President has also reaffirmed that Pakistan will continue to extend unstinted moral, diplomatic and political support till the realization of the right to self-determination of the people in Kashmir. Also, caretaker Prime Minister, Mr. Anwarul Haq Kakar, regarding the significance of 5th of February today, addressed the special session of the Azad Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly. Also, a statement came from him. Let me quote that India's illegal and unilateral actions of 5th of August 2019 are a blatant violation of international law, including the UN Charter, 4th Geneva Convention and relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions. India has since been engaged in efforts to further entrench these illegal measures through a series of steps aimed at altering the demographic structure and political landscape of IIOJK. Pakistan has consistently maintained that a lasting solution to the Kashmir dispute was plebiscite only in accordance with the relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions and wishes of the Kashmiri people. Pakistan will continue to extend its unstinted moral, diplomatic and political support for this just cause. Also, we saw a vibrant rally was taken out in the federal capital today from the Foreign Office, which was of course led by the Foreign Secretary Syed Sajjad Qazi, and a number of federal caretaker ministers also participated in this particular rally. Information Minister Mr. Murtaza Solanki said, let me quote him, "Kashmir is not a graveyard. It is a symbol of resilience against Indian oppression. The struggle against forced annexation did not end in 1947. Even in the face of infamous 1987 rigged elections, Kashmiris raised the voices. This is the 4th generation facing the brutality of Indian oppression, and we stand united with them," unquote. Also, in a major development, the caretaker Foreign Minister, Mr. Jalil Abbas Jilani, has addressed letters to the presidents of the United Nations Security Council, United Nations General Assembly, the United Nations Secretary General, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, and Organization of Islamic Cooperation Secretary General to update them on the latest developments in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and has also emphasized in those letters on the implementation of the United Nations Security Council resolutions that actually promise to the oppressed people in Kashmir of a free, fair and impartial plebiscite and ensuring their inalienable right to self-determination. We'll be talking about this significant day as Pakistanis from across the country, as well as the Kashmiri diaspora across the world, are observing this particular day with zeal and zest. And for that, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Ms. Nida Salam Chaudhry, human rights activist. Ms. Nida, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Also in the studio, we are honored to have been joined by Dr. Waleed Rasool, his expert Kashmir affairs. Dr. Rasool, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. On Skype at the same time, we are honored to have been joined by Mr. Raza Syed. He is chairman of the Kashmir Council, European Union. Mr. Syed, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Let me begin the discussion with you, Dr. Rasool. Now, the significance of this particular day, the Kashmir Solidarity Day, why was it thought that a certain day should be designated in order to express that solidarity with the Kashmiri people?
I don't think it is a certain day, but it can be a symbol. One of the day dedicated for the Kashmir wholly and solely. But I think that Pakistan's support is there every and each moment, because Pakistan is a party to dispute, party to conflict as per UN resolutions. And secondly, what you have already said, that diplomatic, political and moral support the Kashmiri expect beyond this diplomatic, moral or the political support. Secondly, if you go to the historic context of the Kashmir issue, the resolution is between the United Nations resolution is between India and Pakistan. So Pakistan is a party to dispute, and Kashmiris are the aggravated party, grieved party, and our resilience, our struggle at every front is continued, and the Pakistan support is not only the Pakistan support. In international relations, state is the unit of the analysis. So it is the state of Pakistan which represents the Kashmiri people, the aspirations of the Kashmiri people internationally in each and every forum. So if they dedicated one day, that is the 5th this February, it was actually started by it was announced by Qazi Hussain Ahmad at that time. The resistance against India was at peak. So they announced one day, that is the 5th February, for the solidarity with the Kashmir.
Right, Mr. Let's talk about the kind of violations we have seen of international law, also the relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions as far as this Kashmir dispute is concerned. What does international law generally say about the right to self-determination of any certain community with a certain territory, with a certain specific culture?
All right. First of all, I would like to express my wholeheartedly and unflinching support to the brothers and sisters of Indian administered Kashmir of their just and legitimate struggle. As far as the laws are concerned, as far as international laws are concerned, I would like to quote here that United Nations Security Council resolutions are always there. United Nations Security Council has passed many resolutions, but the key ones are 38, 39, Resolution 47, 51, 18, 91, 96, 98, 122 and 126.
There are lots of numbers.
Yes, and the emphasis of these resolutions and the crux of that is a need of free, fair and impartial plebiscite, giving a right of self-determination as in accordance of the United Nations resolution to give peoples the right to decide a separate homeland and to live with autonomy and to exercise all their fundamental human rights.
Right. So this is what the emphasis is basically in these resolutions. So what is the mechanism that this particular emphasis could be implemented? What is the mechanism that is at the hands of the United Nations Security Council in order to implement those?
As far as implementation is concerned, United Nations gave the resolution of the Kashmir conflict. It is between these two states to decide when they are ready for the free, fair and impartial plebiscite to let people to live their lives as in accordance of these resolutions actually. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, I would like to show you here that Pakistan gave all the rights to the people living in this part of Kashmir as in comparison of the Indian administered Kashmir. There is no violence in this part. People are living with autonomy. People are enjoying the taste of life. We are an epitome for that. Secondly, if I consider and compare the other part, Indian administered Kashmir, violations are at its peak. Extrajudicial killings, rapes, pellet bullets were used against children. I would like to show you something. Can you see these past images? You know, she is 19-month-old Hiba, the youngest victim of the pellet bullets by Indian military. How can we forget this past image where a young boy was sitting on the dead body of his grandfather, where Indian military directly shot him, and the Indian military and the state itself violated the right of this child as well, not to be tortured and to witness violence in such a young age. So how can world, international community and India as a state and their government under the umbrella of Modi deny these images internationally and nationally as well? So when it comes to human rights, let me add here, according to Christoph Hein, he was a special rapporteur who visited India in March 2012, and he reported back to the United Nations Human Rights Council. He stated that the rights given to armed forces under the Armed Forces Special Power Act were excessive and impacting on the lives of the people in terms of a negative manner, torturing, right not to live with dignity, right not to be tortured. So these are the evidences which in the past the world has experienced and witnessed as well. So how India as a state can deny?
Right, we are honored to have been joined by Mr. Ali Raza Syed. He is chairman of the Kashmir Council European Union on Skype. Mr. Syed, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. Now, as far as we talk about the Indian unilateral and illegal actions of 5th of August back in 2019, the revocation of Article 370, there was a pretext on the basis of which this particular unilateral and illegal action in contravention to the United Nations Security Council resolutions was carried out by Narendra Modi government. Now, they had this pretext. They wanted to, they claimed later on after this revocation that normalcy returned to this particular occupied territory. As we speak today, it's been a couple of years from that illegal action of India. What is the ground situation with the innocent people over there in occupied Kashmir?
Thank you very much, sir, giving me the opportunity. The ground situation is as it was before. What Indian government is saying that there is normalcy, there is everything is okay. But if it is okay, why they are not giving the permission to the international journalists, international NGOs, and international people who want to visit the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir? So it means if they are refusing, it means they are something to hide. And that is the reason that we are in Europe, we are trying to put the pressure on NGOs and other governments here that they should ask the Indian government to give the permission to the human rights organizations, NGOs, and the journalists. But in my opinion, what we heard from the ground, the situation is very bleak. The people are afraid. They are the maximum forces used by this fascist regime in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Like last week or so, there were 4 people were killed in Poonch region. So and they are demolishing the houses. If somebody wants to speak, and there are the problems on the social media also. If somebody likes something, they are arrested. And the same with the human rights activists like Forum Parvez. They are in prison for 2 years, more than 2 years. Why they are in prison? Why the government of India is afraid of the people of Jammu and Kashmir? Why they put 1 million military personnel and paramilitary in occupied Jammu and Kashmir? For 8 million people there are 100,000 military personnel. Why? So there should be a justification, and that is why we are trying to create the awareness and to resist the Indian propaganda around the world that everything is normal. But if everything is normal, then let the people come in.
Right, Mr. Syed. Now, recently we have seen the endorsement by the Indian Apex Court to that illegal and unilateral action of the Modi government regarding Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Now, we all know there are a number of United Nations Security Council resolutions. So when there is an endorsement by the top court of that particular country that claims to be the so-called largest democracy in the world, do you think this particular endorsement actually emboldens the Modi government itself, and also doesn't attract that much of concern from the international community? And when the justice system is giving an endorsement, so the eyebrows are naturally not raised when it comes to the conscience of the UN in particular.
Sir, if you see, if we go back in 2013, when Indian Supreme Court has given the sentence to Mr. Afzal Guru, so what they said in that statement, that there was not sufficient or enough proof against Afzal Guru, but to satisfy the conscience of the people of India, they hanged him. So we were not so optimistic about the Indian Supreme Court, because the Hindutva government, the Modi government, is using all the institutions for his elections this year, because he wants to show the public that all what he is doing is for the people of India, or people of his faith, the Hinduism. But he before also he failed. Before the last election, there was a Pulwama cases, and now I am afraid that they can have a false flag operation, or they can hang Yasin Malik. So this, to win the election and to satisfy the conscience of his supporters.
Right, Mr. Syed, now if Narendra Modi is carrying out these activities in order to get that political mileage domestically, so in that particular scenario, what happens to be the responsibility of the international community when there has been a blatant violation of United Nations Security Council resolutions also, and also Narendra Modi using all the institutions, and he's of course driven by that Hindutva ideology. What needs to be done, especially when it comes to the United Nations Security Council, to make the Indian government not to transgress and to be within certain limits as enshrined in those UNSC resolutions?
You know, the situation in the world at this moment, Ukraine war is going on, Gaza war is going on, and there are other conflicts. And the European, the Western powers, they want to engage with India to counter China in coming times. But in my opinion, that beside that, the people of Europe and people of US or Western world, they should be aware of all this situation. And that's why Kashmir Council EU and other organizations and other Kashmiri and Pakistanis, we are trying to create awareness, and then those people can put the pressure on the representatives and on their own governments, because this cannot continue what Modi is doing in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Like you have seen about Gaza, the people of Europe and people of the world, they are coming out. And the same thing we want, that Modi should not take an opportunity that the peoples are occupied with Gaza and with Ukraine, and he can do whatever he wants. That's why we are trying to convey the message to the authorities here and all the decision makers.
Right, Mr. Syed, we know that in the recent past we have seen that the Sikhs diaspora have gone for holding referendums in the major world capitals, and those particular referendums actually got a lot of traction, and that actually soured relationship of India with certain Western powers, specifically when we talk about Canada. Is there any possibility on the lines of those referendums the Kashmiri diaspora could also hold those sort of referendums in the major world capitals so that their voice could be heard with the maximum outreach?
You know, we are talking about with our friends and with our the diaspora community, because the Sikh community, they organized this for last 2 years. 2020 they started this, and I think it is a very good idea. We can have this type of referendum which we can have in every big cities of Europe, where the people of Kashmir they live, and the diaspora, where the diaspora is important, like UK. So we will discuss with our friends and our colleagues who are working on this, working on Kashmir. So we will come with some solutions, and maybe in coming near future we will have some decisions.
Right, and Mr. Syed, now caretaker Foreign Minister Mr. Jalil Abbas Jilani has written letters to the President of UNSC, UNGA, as well as United Nations Secretary General, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, and OIC Secretary General also. How do you look at this particular step in order to, he has written these letters in order to update them regarding the latest developments in IIOJK and urge them for the implementation of the relevant UNSC resolutions?
I think it's a very good step, and I just met with the Foreign Minister last week, and I appreciate his efforts, because he is the person who knows about Kashmir, and he was from the day one, he was engaged with the people of Kashmir and the Kashmir issue, and this is the moment, I think, Jalil Abbas Jilani Sahab, what he is trying to convey the message of oppressed people of Jammu and Kashmir to the United Nations, to European Union, and to other powers. It is the Kashmiri people appreciate that.
Right, and Mr. Syed, please stay with us. Dr. Rasool, now, what about this particular idea of holding referendums on the lines of the Sikh holding referendum around the world in the major world capitals, and those referendums actually had a lot of traction, and they had that much of outreach that it actually soured the relationship of Indian government with some of the Western powers?
It is a nice idea, but definitely an alternative also. You may say that when movement is being choked by India, by all its dimensions through the hard power, the alternative is the diaspora, and same has been happening in various movements of the world. But you see, there are always the crusts and troughs in the movement, and the people who are resilient up to the quantum that they know how to open the new avenues. But as far as you are giving the suggestion, there are definitely a room for it. But second room, you may say that recently when Gambia put the issue of the Rohingya and also the South Africa of to the Palestine, they gave the new gap in international law. And in international law we say that they both parties shall agree, then International Court of Justice will intervene. Now there is a precedent that the second party can raise the issue if it is not the direct party to the issue, for example India and Pakistan, and that can we can bring that into the ICJ, and if any other nation has to support, they will support the nation who supports the IC resolution. And secondly, when you are talking about this raising the evidence campaign in the diaspora is an alternative, and you know that the Azad Kashmir diaspora is in abundance, They have more parliamentarians also in UK and other few European nations. And this idea is an excellent idea, but it needs some homework, and you have to keep the sensitivities in consideration also.
So what's required for the mobilization of a diaspora on those lines if this particular idea is to be executed?
You have three constituencies alternative. Number one, you need to inculcate the people who are struggling in occupied Kashmir. Presently they are in Pakistan or around the globe. Number one. Number two, you need to amalgamate the two constituencies, that is the people who are in Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and you have to engage the Azad Kashmir leadership in the movement also at the top level, at the assembly level. Third, the people who are in the diaspora, and you might be knowing that there is a small ratio, small fraction of the people who have been migrated from Indian occupied Kashmir to abroad, because they were not having the passport facilities, they are not allowed to move to and fro. And number fourth, you need a homework at the research level. You need a good research paper, what type of diasporas you want to engage. Then also the students, particularly the research scholars, the teachers who are teaching in the universities abroad, the lawyers who have the specialty of the particular domain from the legal side. So when you will do the homework, you can generate a new movement, and that can be a good message for the people of Indian occupied Kashmir who are currently in the pressure cooker. Definitely in the movement there are always alternatives, there is always hope, and new things do emerge. And recently you have witnessed that new things had happened even in the domain of the international law. Definitely I will say that the solution is there, you have just to implement it. That is United Nations resolutions. You may say solution is always already there, but you just need to implement. So the legal course is universal. And fifth, that it is always the international law or the legal side of the any aspect is required to the aggressive party. Powerful doesn't need it. And then when you want to speak truth to the power, you need multi-dimensional movement aspects to push your movement forward.
Right, Ms. Nida, now what's your understanding if there is a sort of referendum that is organized by the Kashmir diaspora on the lines of that particular referendum carried out by the Sikhs?
All right. The situation in Indian administered Kashmir has been complex and sensitive issue marked by historically, politically and territorial dispute between India and Pakistan. The region has witnessed ongoing tensions, military conflict and human rights concern. As far as Kashmir people are concerned, they have faced challenges related to security concern, related to restriction in relation to the restriction movement and communication. As you asked about referendum and international diaspora, we have seen in the past that a million march already occurred back in the days in the streets of London. Through these marches, through these protests and engagement of international diaspora, not only spread awareness but also diplomatically can help both sides to come forward for the plebiscite, free, fair, impartial. And I think the only resolution for this issue is free, fair, impartial plebiscite, because the arrogant India has to leave the rigid policy behind the bars, because I strongly believe that Pakistan has consistently played morally, ethically, diplomatically at all fronts.
Right. So what about the legal course of action? Going to International Court of Justice, is that a possibility? And are there any, if not exactly, are there any obstacles to that? What those obstacles are, and what basically the provisions as per the statute or the International Court of Justice that provides for such a dispute?
All right. As far as International Court of Justice is concerned, a state can take the case in relation to that. But we have other forums as well where we have seen India as a state is in violation. For example, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, Covenant Against Torture, other cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment or punishment, Convention on the Rights of a Child. As far as resolutions are concerned, in relation to the United Nations Security Council, they are actually available in terms for both states to take a positive decision. But International Court of Justice, again, will move forward in relation to the India, that what should decision further on, because violations on all of these things are at its peak, and the world has experienced and witnessed, from raping women, extrajudicial killings, and pellet bullets were used against children. Unknown graves were found, like in thousands and thousands in relation to the numbers. I think now is the time, after considering the issue of Palestine, Ukraine and all, that India and Pakistan should resolve this issue, because both are nuclear power and having sufficient capacities and capabilities to take a positive step, rather than to play a blame game, which India is quite famous. False flag operations, we have seen in the past how their Air Force officer was given a fantastic team in Pakistan. Besides than that, we have seen in the past that blame game in relation to Uri incident, Pathankot, Pulwama and all, and at international level, India failed to provide even a single evidence anywhere around the world.
Right, Mr. Syed, now when we talk about International Court of Justice in particular, what are the options with the parties when we specifically talk about the oppressed people in IIOJK, as well as the Pakistani authorities? And are there any obstacles in the way if this particular case is taken at the ICJ?
I think there are enough documents, enough crimes committed by the Indian occupation forces in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. We should go, but it depends, the ICJ, only the country can go. And Pakistan, I think Pakistan should take initiative to go. We have a lot of documentation, and which is approved and which is supported in United Nations Human Rights Council's report 2018 to 2019, and Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch and all other organizations. They indicated that what is happening in Kashmir for last several years. So I think to stop Modi, we have to go to the International Court of Justice or to the International Criminal Court, because it is time that like South Africa went for Gaza to for the Palestinian to International Court of Justice. I think we need Pakistan. If Pakistan cannot, or there are some issues, they can have a friendly country, a small country, who can go to the International Court of Justice. And I think this is the way we have to follow.
Right, Mr. Syed, when you talk about the question of jurisdiction, do you think if this particular case, with all those documented irrefutable evidences, is taken to the International Court of Justice, and when the defending party comes to the court and it raises that very question of the jurisdiction, do you think that could be a possible hurdle in the proceedings and the admissibility of such a case at the ICJ?
I'm not expert on this, but maybe. But there is another court also, International Criminal Court, where they can issue the warrants or to arrest all those who were involved in the committing human rights violation, committing crimes against humanity, and the killing of the innocent Kashmiris in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. We have to take the steps. International Court of Justice or International Criminal Court, we have to follow that. And I think there are a lot of, it's a big chance for the Kashmiri people to be heard, and it will raise the issue on the international forums.
Right, Mr. Syed, please stay with us. Dr. Rasool, now taking it to the ICJ, what about the question of jurisdiction in the case of this particular, the suit that has been brought in by South Africa against Israel regarding its genocidal acts it is perpetrating over there against the innocent people in Gaza? There was a plethora and very well organized, a lot of evidence irrefutable evidence, a lot of statements also at the same time by some of the top officials of the United Nations itself. So when we talk about the United Nations, have we been able to observe such type of statements when it comes to the Kashmir dispute and the kind of gross human rights violations going on, perpetrated so regularly with such an impunity by India on the part of the United Nations officials in particular?
Actually, UN resolution is a guarantee, and also it makes the Kashmir dispute an international dispute. It is a legal course of action which we need to follow by hook or by crook. Number two, the geopolitics, geoeconomics and geostrategics are always engaged. Number three, you need homework, and we have been pursuing it, and the same issue was raised in our National Assembly, and I was at that time the part of Kashmir Parliamentary Committee when OIC came to the visit to Islamabad, and we talked to them, they must pursue it. But definitely it needs that whenever you are talking that why anybody will support the Kashmir resolutions at the United Nations General Council. So you have to follow the step-by-step approach. Number one. Number two, we have.
And what is that step-by-step approach?
First, what you need, you have 2,300 case studies available, in which we have evidence, we have prima facie evidence, we have FIRs, and we have some sort of material available on the ground. It was the groundwork and homework carried by Khurram Parvez. It is why that he is facing the brunt. He was a great human rights activist who gathered and collected this primary data. Number one. Number two, my team have carried a research work on the people, the children who are under the age, who are juvenile, who are under age. 14 cases we identified who have been arrested, tortured, and even their genital organs were tortured during the custody, and they are not able to produce. But actually, what do you need when we are going to attend the United Nations Human Rights Council regularly? What we face that we need the safety and the guarantee of the victim who is currently under Indian occupation. How we can keep him safe? That is the mega challenge for we people. And for that purpose, can United Nations Human Rights Council give them some safeguard to come out and to be the eyewitness of his own case.
How to address this particular biggest challenge that you're talking about, and especially the United Nations Human Rights Council, how can it provide with that kind of stubbornness on the part of Indian government?
Our team led by Nida was also a part of that human rights delegation, and other team, the big team who are working round the clock on it. We have been pursuing through special rapporteurs, through independent experts, and even through the Human Rights Council chairman. And it is why that when you are saying that what was an outcome that for the report which published in 2018 and 2019 was a comprehensive report which our team has been succeeded to get out of the Human Rights Council. Now what is the procedure? You have to follow the Human Rights Council, and then you need a support of the countries who will support your resolution, and that resolution will move to United Nations General Council and then to Security Council. Now in every stage you need lot of homework, lot of groundwork, and particularly when you are talking about the international relations, you have to see what is the economic and interest of the particular country who are supporting you with the India. First of all, you have to ascertain that they will not support the human rights resolution in favor of Kashmir until and unless they have little interest with India, or India has little interest in that country. So you have what is the now procedure? The proper procedure is that you have to identify the small nations, and then you have to identify how much economic interests they have with the India. That is the second step. And third step, you need some homework at the level of policy institutes and the university level and at the advocacy level to push any sort of campaign at the state level. Then state will be in a position to support that resolution which will favor the Kashmir. So this is the proper step by step approach you have to follow, but it will be definitely different as you are doing currently. You need to follow the same scientific approach which is always there, and until and unless you will not follow the scientific approach as per legal procedure, you cannot reach to the conclusion.
Right, Ms. Nida. I think you're.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to add something
No,
to
that's
it?
fine, go ahead.
Dr. Rasool. Okay,
I would
so
like
what
to
about
agree
the
with
question?
Dr. Rasool.
You completely agree with Dr. Rasool.
Partially.
Okay, partially. Where do you disagree? Please go ahead.
No, just go ahead for your
Okay,
next
so
question.
what about the question of jurisdiction? Pakistan, with all the irrefutable evidence of the gross human rights violations, knocks the doors of the highest court in the world, the ICJ. What are the probabilities of the admissibility of it? Or what about the question of jurisdiction? Could that be raised by the defending party?
All right. As far as evidences are concerned, Pakistan as a state has a lot of evidences, more than sufficient evidences, enough evidences in terms of India to take to International Court of Justice or International Criminal Court. When it comes to violation of human rights, there's no doubt that India should be prosecuted in International Criminal Court. And when it comes to the protection of human rights and people's right of self-determination, I think Pakistan should take the case into the International Court of Justice or to engage another state, brotherly state. We have good relations in the region with other states. Pakistan should play smartly now because it's the 21st century and Pakistan never believed on violence. I have never seen military in our streets in Pakistan, part of Kashmir, honestly speaking.
Pakistan is going to continue to support the oppressed people in IIOJK diplomatically, morally, and
I just want to
politically.
add one point to Advocate Nida, that we were presuming that it is the jurisdiction of the only two countries, either India, both parties shall agree. But now precedent has been said that third party can go.
Yes.
So this is the gap where
in
we
relation
have
to the
exploit.
Palestine and Israel conflict, a third party can intervene.
Both parties must agree. When you want to,
both are the member of that particular convention on the prevention of genocide, right? So they have to be, there is a prerequisite for that also. Dr. Waleed Rasool, expert Kashmir Affairs, thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Ms. Nida, Salam Chaudhry, human rights activist, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Mr. Ali Raza Syed, chairman of the Kashmir Council, European Union. Mr. Syed, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Thank you very much for being with us.